Let's shift gears and think about things from the buyer's perspective. What matters to the buyer? What are the sources of fuel in the minds of somebody purchasing a new home? Take a moment and think about what would be on your list if you were to look at this from the perspective of a buyer. Having thought about it, my guess is you've probably come up with some variation on the following. Price. Am I getting a fair deal for the home that I'm buying, or am I paying top dollar in an overvalued asset? 2, sourcing a fair loan. How might I make sure that I'm getting a fair interest rate? How might I make sure that I'm getting a fair deal on financing? Am I getting a good rate? Does it come with a bunch of bells and whistles and points and other things that I need to address, or is it fairly straightforward? Is the sales process going to be smooth, or are there a lot of hiccups in the way? Do I have confidence in the asset? Am I purchasing a home that I'm worried about what I might find once I move in? And does that anxiety prevent me from going into this situation with confidence? And then 4, do I have some flexibility? How much do I have the ability to control when I move out and when I move in? And does that actually stack up to what my expectations are in terms of what fits my life and the needs of my family? What about the frictions? What frictions do you think might stand in the way of a buyer? What might make them feel less confident or concerned about the process of moving forward? Take a moment and think about that. Maybe your list looks like this. Am I paying too much? Have I overpriced this house and I'm actually being taken for a ride by the seller? What about the certainty of acquiring a fair loan? Am I going to have the ability to get a loan? Am I investing all of this time only to have the deal fall apart because I'm not getting a mortgage or an interest rate that I'm comfortable with? What about the anxiety or disappointment with competing with all cash offers? I find a home that I finally love and I put in my best possible offer, but then one of these apex predator buyers with their all cash offers comes in and puts down an offer that immediately takes me out of consideration. So I've invested a bunch of my time and my heart and my effort and my future casting in thinking about this particular opportunity only for it to be taken away from me at the last moment. What about listing my own home? If I wind up having a contingent mortgage, now all of a sudden as a buyer, I become a seller. And all of those anxieties, all of those frictions that the seller experienced, in addition to the buyer's anxieties, are also now mine. And what about moving? Moving. We talked about this example in jobs. Moving, I don't know if you're like me, is the worst. I think there's like 1% of people that think, hey, moving's great because I get to edit down my life. I've actually heard people say that. But if you're like me, the anxiety of moving and the effort amount involved in moving is just more than my head can handle. So again, like sellers, buyers have both sources of fuel, but also a tremendous amount of friction that often stands in their way. And if we were to map the buyer's frictions against a friction map, it would look a little bit like this.